Hi, welcome back. My name's Kelly.
And I'm McCarty. And if you're new here, we both have master's degrees in history, and we decided we should probably use them for something. Because we spent a lot of money, and also, we love it. I didn't get a master's degree for nothing.
Anyway, so today's video is, one of our first videos, we did the Great Sphinx.
Yes.
Which I think is considered an ancient world wonder. I'm not really sure.
There's lots of different...
There's a lot of lists.
Yeah.
But I thought it'd be kind of interesting to do another great mystery. I don't know, mystery.
Oh, wait. I thought you were going to do Hildegard.
I was going to, and then I was going to do Hildegard of Bingen. And if you know anything about, like, medieval history, you hear about her all of the time.
Yeah, she was a mystic.
She's very interesting, but when I was picking my topic, I kind of forgot that I had said that.
Sure. Okay, if I'm being honest, I was really excited to talk about her.
I will do her for my next one, but I was like,
oh, that'll be great. A nice refresher. I think she's super interesting.
I was thinking about it, and I was like, shit, what was the one that I said the other day that I was going to do? And then I couldn't remember it. So I was Googling other things, and we came up with another historical site. This one is another ancient, kind of mysterious thing that people
kind of
built. We're going to do Stonehenge today. And I think it's going to be interesting. I do have one point to start with. No, I'll come back. Okay. There was a whole conversation in the brain that happened, but we're going to start. It's going to be fine. Okay. So, you might know that Stonehenge is, and I'll put a picture up, it's the big monolithic
circle
rocks in a circle. And so basically, it's like a circle of rocks, and then inside the circle of rocks, there's the horseshoe of rocks. And there's actually, this was interesting because I didn't really know this, there's actually a large complex kind of around the area.
What kind of complex?
So they have, it had a name, but I can't remember what it was. Like Ashbury or something. It's like Stonehenge and Ashbury. If you look at the...
like an ancient complex?
Yeah, so like the heritage, it's like a heritage site, and they have, it's like a complex. So basically...
And the complex is kind of just... a place to get historical information, or is it an ancient?
So from what I understand, it's like Stonehenge is like here, and then a few miles this way is another structure, and then they also have what they call barrows all around, which are like burial mounds, and they also have a bunch of ditches and stuff. So it's like,
and they all date from around the same time.
Yeah, they're all built around the same time. So they call it a complex. I think it's called Ashbury or something like that. So it's like just a few miles from each other, these different historical sites. Okay. So it's found in Great Britain. It was built in like multiple stages, which I think is kind of interesting.
Does it tell the dates?
I will.
Okay.
The earliest part, and I saw a couple of conflicting time periods in the
as with anything
research material that I was looking at, but the earliest part of the monument, one source said that it was erected about 5,000 years ago. Okay. And the other one, the main part that we recognize as Stonehenge, the circle and then the horseshoe in the middle, was built in around 2500 BCE. So, and it's built in the late Neolithic era, okay, which is, Neolithic means new Stone Age, I think. Yeah. And
is that prehistoric?
Yeah, so this is my question. Because the pyramid the Sphinx of Giza was also built in 2500 BCE, but it's not considered a prehistoric site. But Stonehenge, which arguably was also built, this says all 6 stages. Another site that I saw said that the 6 stages that it was built in were between 3000 BCE and 1520 BCE. So my question is that if this was also built in 2500 BCE and the Sphinx of Giza was built in 2500 BCE, why is this considered a Neolithic or prehistoric structure, but the Sphinx is not considered? Like, why is ancient Egypt not considered prehistoric, but other...
Because history starts when you start writing it down.
Right?
Well, the delineation between historical and prehistoric is when you start writing things down. Yeah. So maybe because in Stonehenge they weren't writing things down.
Maybe they didn't have a written language yet. I don't know, but that was my curiosity when I was looking at it. I was like,
Myrtle,
why is
get out
this
of there.
considered prehistoric
Not allowed to be in
and
boxes.
the other one's not? So, it was built a long time ago, obviously. There's also a bunch of pits, which I think those are called the Ashbury pits, and it looks like
Myrtle.
they were made between, so the pits, which seem to have crematory remains.
Okay.
And stuff like that, and those seem to have been made between 8500 BCE and 7000 BCE.
So the Stonehenge actual stones,
3000 to 1520.
so those are a lot
newer
than some of the burial pits and such. Okay, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
So
what have they found in those burial sites?
they found like Roman artifacts. They found human remains. They found like just various, and they have also found cremated remains.
Okay, which is kind of interesting because cremation is not commonly found.
I don't know if it was like cremated burial, like human remains, or if they were just like
Evidence
ashes.
of fire. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There wasn't really a distinction between the two. So it was built in the 6 stages, and they also have they found a lot of burials. This might be, I think what they said is it's the largest cemetery, like medieval or not medieval, prehistoric cemetery in the area. So it's built on Salisbury Plain, near Salisbury, in Wiltshire, England. And if I'm remembering correctly, we have heard of Wiltshire before, and one of King Henry's wives, I think, was from Wiltshire, but at this moment, I can't remember who.
Mm.
Maybe Anne Boleyn? I'm not sure, but one of the queens was from Wiltshire.
Yeah, I can't remember.
And
let's think about it.
I'll put a map up too of England and where Stonehenge is comparatively.
Only one of his queens was. Oh no, Catherine Howard was English too.
It's one of the early ones.
It's got to be Anne because.
I just remember in the video I edited.
Who's
that
the
she was from
third
Wiltshire.
wife? Jane.
Maybe Jane. Was
it's
from
either
Wiltshire.
Anne or Jane. Anne, because Boleyn or Jane. Because
Catherine
everything
from
else
Aragon.
is from. Everything else is too late, and also it's from other places. Okay.
So anyway, but I saw that and I was like, hey, we've heard of Wiltshire before. So it's in the south of England. It was built in line with the sun and the moon.
Obviously, as everything back then is to do with the sun and the moon.
And people think...
Which makes sense because, like, those are the things you can track.
Right. People think that... Because it's almost like the... Stonehenge is kind of like the statue of Giza, the Sphinx, where we don't really know who built it. We don't really know what purpose it served. We don't really know why they built it. You know, it's like... And the feat of engineering that they... did is crazy because they're moving these, 2-ton...
And some of them are up high.
Yeah, because they have, like, the 2 here, and then they have one that's laying across. So,
which, in my opinion, obviously, could be one of 2 things. Aliens or giants.
Probably not, though.
Probably not.
Anyway.
Maybe, we don't know.
So it looks... Some people have argued that because of its position to the sun and the moon, that it was used as a calendar based on the lunar and solar cycles or whatever. Some of the stones so there's 2 types of stones, and one of them is called blue stones, and the other one I didn't write down. Series, I don't know. I didn't write it down. So some of the stones are from as far away as 150 miles in Wales. They've got stones from Wales, and they somehow got them 150 miles south to, I don't know where Wales, I think it's south, to this area. So that's a huge feat in and of themselves because these stones are like...
And they're not broken up at all.
No, they're like...
huge slabs.
Huge slabs of stones that are... Some of them, I saw 40 tons, but I think that is wrong. I'm not great at reading, especially if it's numbers. But I also saw 28 tons, and I also saw like a couple of tons. So these stones are huge, and
maybe the 40 tons was collectively.
Maybe. Because 40 tons would be like 80,000 pounds.
Yeah.
That can't be like too much. So they also found, I think in Wales, they found where they think that they quarried the stones from. And I don't think I have, like, dimensions. I don't know why.
Big.
But they're large. I think they're taller than people. And they're made in, like, they're built in a post and lintel structure, which is the ones that go here, and then they have it's called a lintel on top.
And those are what hold it together. Like, they're not held together with, like, brick and mortar.
Well, I think that well, yes, that's true. But I think that they're, like, I don't know if they were buried in the ground. I don't know how they did it. They have some theories about how they did it.
Sure. If maybe they weren't always above ground.
Well, or maybe they had to use, like, they dug a ditch and then put the rock in the ditch. I'm not sure, but they do think that they used waterways to get it from Wales. Because it's easier,
obviously, it's easier
to do that stuff to move that on water. And then they used, like, logs, and they would have, like, a line of logs, and they would roll it, and then you take the last log and you put it out front. It would take a long time. Like, these people are using rudimentary tools just like they did in the Sphinx. But
okay, 2 types of stones. You were going to say something after we discussed the calendar.
The blue stones came from just a few miles away.
Okay.
And I don't really know the difference between the stones.
Are there any markings on the stones at all? Or are they just, like,
I don't
regular?
think
they don't have, like, any...
I don't think they have any writing or words on them or anything. And then there are also, like, 350 similar monuments in this area, which I think is part of that complex that I was talking about earlier. There's also, I don't think they're as big or as well known or as, I just think as massive, but they also had a bunch of, like, they said ditches and hills and valleys and stuff because they were, like, creating burial mounds and stuff.
Sure.
And this seems to have been a really popular place with the Romans. Even though it would have been years after, like, the Romans would have been there after it had started, but it seems to have been...
Did it say when the Romans came?
I don't remember when the Romans came.
And then I would also be curious as to if the Greeks were ever there, like, pre-Roman Empire.
Did the Greeks go to Britain?
That's what I don't know. I don't think so.
Because the Romans went to Britain, they had, like, that's why we have the Roman baths in Bath and all of that stuff. So they found a lot of Roman artifacts near the site, and
it was called Britannica, and that's why we get the name Britain.
Yes, you're correct. So the purpose, and let me see if there's anything else about building it before whatever. We're just gonna go loosey-goosey on this one. My notes are all over the place because I don't know how to write a paper, apparently. So the purpose and the originators of the monument have been debated for a long time. Like I said, we don't really know who built it. We don't know why they built it. There's a theory that the Druids built it, but that was kind of debunked because the monument was built 2,000 years before the Druids were,
like, known to be there.
So, from what I understand, and I might be wrong on this, but I think the only information we have of the ancient Druids was from Caesar.
I was going to say, there's not a lot of
information
about them.
And I think it was, like, they're in, like, one primary source. There's not a ton about them. They have new iterations of Druids, like, more people have, like, they kind of adopted that.
Isn't Druids kind of like any other pagan religion?
Yeah. So that has been largely debunked because it was built 2,000 years before the Druids were documented by Julius Caesar. So people are like, it probably wasn't them.
But also, you don't have any, like, maybe the Druids were there that time.
Right. But there's really not a lot of evidence of Druid.
Yeah, they probably have, like, markings and what have you.
Yeah. So another theory is that it was used as a
religious place,
like a gathering place for chiefdoms. So, like, the chiefs would come to this gathering place, and
it's like a neutral ground.
Yeah, kind of like all of the small I don't know what they're called. Chiefs? No, chiefdoms. I don't know, the towns or whatever, and they would all come together.
Villages. Yeah,
the chiefs would come together and have art agreements and stuff like that. They would celebrate things and stuff like that. Let's see. In 1963, an astronomer named Gerald Hawkins thought that maybe the monument was some sort of computer to predict solar and lunar eclipses. I honestly don't know why. Why would you need to be able to predict a lunar or a solar eclipse?
Especially because most of the time they're so fleeting.
Right?
I don't know.
But anyway, he thought maybe it was a computer of some kind. Then another theory from 1973, from an archaeologist called Colin Renfrew, he proposed that the monument was a meeting place for chiefs of the Bronze Age, so they could all get together and talk about policy and whatever important people do. And that was for the Bronze Age, which I think is after the Stone Age.
Yes.
Okay.
Go from stone tools to bronze tools.
Yes, that makes sense. Anyway. Others think it was a sacred spot to honor the dead. Some people think it's a spot for healing. They found evidence of a person that had like a broken leg there, that the broken leg had healed, but there's not much evidence suggesting that it was a place of healing.
Broken legs
but
heal. And there's always, if you don't know what it's for, religion.
Yes, religion is always a...
Brings me to a story. One of our grad school professors, she studied Roman history, and she told this story about how obviously anything they don't know what it is, it's for fertility rituals, it's for religion, it's for...
Was I in this class?
You might not have been.
Okay, because I'm like, I don't know.
It might have been the class that I TA'd for, but she told a story, and they found all of these stones, and they were phallic, and they looked like, they were like, oh, it's from the... it's for the gods, and it's a fertility stone, and it was literally just like a stone dildo.
Oh. I mean, fertility.
Fertility, yes, but it's not going to get you anything.
True.
So it's just like all of these things that are just regular
human objects.
And they give
importance to
importance,
them. Yeah. So this is part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site. So I think that, I don't know exactly what that means, but they, like, have to upkeep it, and it's like protected, I think.
Yeah.
And it's part of a complex. Oh, Avebury, and Avebury is right there.
Avebury.
Is near Stonehenge, and it's the...
So not Ashbury.
No, not Ashbury. Stonehenge is the largest monolith, like ancient monolith. Monolith just means giant stones, I think. And it's the most architecturally sophisticated and complex monolith in the world, and Ashbury is the largest monument in the world,
in terms of like giant area.
I think so.
Yes.
Spread out. Some of the rocks weigh as much as 20 tons. Like I said earlier, there were varying things or whatever, but huge. I think that they're human height. Like, I think that they're taller than people.
I was gonna say.
And there's a bunch of them, and they're like, the thought of how they made it is just incredible to me.
That's one thing I'm really bummed about. When we went to England, we didn't go to Stonehenge because we didn't really have time. But that would have been cool. Yeah. So the major questions about Stonehenge is how it was built, because it's like a crazy feat of engineering. Kind of like the Easter Island heads. Like, they're just these massive heads. Like, how do they get there? And it's not like they're small stones that were glued together or whatever. They're these huge stones, and they don't have heavy machinery. They don't have equipment like we have today in order to move these. You know what they were probably using?
Magic?
Physics.
Magic was a good answer,
also
too.
magic. That's probably what they were using. Physics.
So anyway, like I said, they used the waterways and log rollers to move the slabs of stone. The largest stones were carried from 20 miles away. And then I just am blown away that it was built with rudimentary tools, rudimentary technology, and yet we have this huge, everlasting rock formation. Yeah,
it's really not surprising that people jump to things like aliens.
But also I think that they have these things that, like, these similar structures that crop up, I think, in multiple places, because I don't know if you've ever seen Outlander, but she touches stones similar to, like a formation similar to...
Where at?
Inverness, in Scotland.
That's how she goes back to the Pass? It's not Stonehenge?
No.
Oh.
I think they're called Cairn Rocks. Kairn. But I'm not 100% sure on that. It's been a hot minute since I watched Outlander.
I only got through 7 episodes.
They have new seasons out, and I should probably catch up, but I never do. I don't know why. It's so good. If you haven't seen Outlander,
I think getting into it. So I watched like the first 7 episodes until he gets raped by that one guy.
You gotta get past the rape.
I didn't like. I was gonna, but then I had to stop, and then I just never went back to it because it's like all encompassing.
Yeah.
Hello, Myrtle.
You kind of have to be. You have to focus in on that. Anyway, like I said, there was cremains, there was burial mounds. So the most probable theory for what it was built for, the most probable theory is that it was a burial ground. It was used for some kind of burial rites, some kind of religion burial, stuff like that, because it does seem like it was a large cemetery.
Yeah.
And then another theory is that it was used for astronomy and astrological purposes, like stargazing, time maps, calendars. I don't know why I can't think of the word calendar ever, but it was used for like calendars. It was used to,
which that's people have always been like interested in the stars and fascinated by things like that, and so it makes sense that they would dedicate something this big to something such as astrology and calendar building or like time maps, all of that.
Yeah, there's also evidence or like theories of, like she said, giants, theories of aliens, like any ancient site that just seems too unfathomable to our tiny little brains. To have built that without any technology whatsoever. So those are always theories that kind of go hand in hand with any ancient artifact. But
yeah,
I'm still just blown away. Like, I still can't get over the fact that this is considered a Neolithic Stone Age.
But Giza isn't.
But the Sphinx is not considered prehistoric. And they were built around the same time. Like, yeah, there was things that came earlier than, like some of the barrows and stuff, some of the burial mounds came earlier than the rock formation, but it doesn't make sense to me. I might have to look into it some more, but
and it's something you guys can look into more, because we might have sparked your interest in why that. So then you can go and Google it and learn more on your own.
I just don't understand why that's considered prehistoric and the Pyramid of Giza is not, or the whatever of Giza, the Sphinx. Why can't I
close all of your windows?
Yes.
I never do.
I know.
I do, and I have like 17 of them.
I close all of my tabs.
That's so weird. I hate that.
I was talking to my friends, and they also have a bunch of tabs open, and I'm like, how? How do you have tabs? I want to Google one thing. Let's see what the interweb says about Stonehenge. See what some of the theories are. Oh, some legends say that it was Merlin, that he had a giant build the structure for him.
Obviously.
Some people say the devil, which checks out.
Obviously.
Apparently the first person to write of the monument was Henry of Huntingdon in 1130 CE. Has a lot of stuff about...
That's so late.
I know, right?
Probably the first surviving.
Yeah.
Like, there might be people that don't, like, they wrote about it before and it didn't stick.
There's also some ties to the King Arthur myth, which that would be a fun video to do with King Arthur.
We should.
And then there was a bunch of architects and stuff that looked at it and tried to figure out what it was, and
just astronomers here they argued it was a Roman temple. Roman temple.
Dedicated to Uranus. Some people think that the Danes erected it in the later times. The Druids. So in 1640, John Aubrey is one of the first people to like actually make an effort to understand the stones and to like, I don't want to say excavate, but like map them and like figure out what they were.
Study them.
He thought it was the Druids, and that was popularized a little bit later. Let's see. A true, accurate survey of Stonehenge wasn't created until 1740, which sounds crazy.
But I mean, like...
Yeah. Carbon dating indicates that the site began to be built around 31 BCE and ended...
3100.
Yep, 3100, yeah. And then ended in 1600 BCE. And they still have some stuff about druids, but it says they're unlikely to have used the site for sacrifices because they performed the majority of their rituals in the woods. And then Romans first came to the Isles in 55 BCE. That's when Julius Caesar led an exhibition to Rome. They've got a lot of minerals, I think, from like maybe timber, and I think tin.
I was going to say timber and tin, yeah.
Tin comes from England, or at least it did. So I think they used that a lot, and that's why they were up in what you call it. Cursus stones was the other stones that I couldn't remember. But yeah, I think it's kind of interesting. I just think it's so crazy that things that far back.
What's a ley line?
Ley lines are like magical. They're basically like, ley lines are like, they connect, they're like magic lines that connect two places together. They're like, oh, if it was built on a ley line or whatever.
Oh, sure. Okay.
It says Stonehenge and I don't know what that says. It says that basically sacred sites around the area are equidistant from each other, and that creates like a track of magic.
Sure.
But yeah, so basically there's a lot of different ideas. A lot of people think that has something to do with like rituals, astronomy, things like that. But really, we'll never know why they were used, why it was built. Maybe the people who built it were just like, hey, this looks cool.
Yeah.
You know?
They're just architects.
Which is crazy. It was just a craft.
Yeah.
Just a huge multi-ton craft. But I always just think
it's not finished. They were like, oh god, this craft was so boring. We're just gonna
put
it in the whip pile.
It was just a WIP.
We're just gonna whip it.
But whip is work in progress.
Oh, frog it. We're gonna frog it.
What does frog stand for?
In crochet, frogging is like rip it.
Oh, sure.
Because when you undo crochet, it kind of
got it.
But and it also like you're ripping it, so it's like rip it. It's called frogging. That's what I meant. Frogging.
So, yeah, we don't know what it's gonna be or what it was for. Now it's just a site that people go to. I'm sure that some people have created some kind of significance to it, and like personal significance, which go for them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, make whatever significance you want to literally anything. As I have learned, and I talk about all the time, none of this is real. We made up all of it.
The world is made up.
Yeah, none of this is real. Anything humans did, not real. We all made it up. The internet, not real. We made that up. Any social construct, not real.
Yeah, we made all of it up. It blows my mind, especially when I'm like overwhelmed with bills and stuff. I'm like, money's not real. We made it up.
That's in my head whenever I'm super stressed. I'm like, none of this is real. It doesn't even matter. None of this is real.
It's a coping mechanism. But that's all I have today. Yeah. Sorry if it wasn't as interesting as some of the other ones. I thought it was kind of interesting.
We've been having a lot. We got a citation from the city for our yard. I was really sick.
We got a lot going
on this last couple weeks.
Our plants were near death. We are putting in a pollinator garden, like plants in our front yard instead of grass. And I thought they were all dead. They all look so dead, and now they're coming back, and I'm very excited about it.
And it's been so dry.
It's been dry.
It's been raining the last day and a half. But prior to that, it was like 1,000 degrees here.
It's been so hot, but...
And you're only allowed to water on... We have an odd house number, so we're only allowed to water on odd days. So that means, like, our plants are just...
Dry.
Crispy.
Delphi's eyes are watering.
Delphi, why are you watering?
You see it? It looks like she's crying.
Don't be such a little bitch.
No, she's a good girl. Anyway.
Right. It's her diabetes.
Probably.
Delphi.
Her Delphibetes.
Did you scratch something?
Anyway, you guys have a great day. Like and subscribe. Follow us. Do all the things. We're also on TikTok now. It's called Those History Twins. I made a little TikTok channel. I've been posting like shortened versions of our videos. It's really hard to edit down 40-minute videos, 30 to 40-minute videos into 3 minutes. It's quite a challenge, especially when I don't know what I'm doing. But so watch for that. As
Spotify.
usual.
I feel like the last one I forgot to put on Spotify.
So, all right. Well, you guys have a great day. Anything for you?
Nope.
All right. We'll see you next week. Bye.